You are invited to State of the Liberation Movement with the President, Federal Republic of Amba, Dr. Samuel Ikomesako, and Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. They will spotlight their briefings on the IG's unwavering position on topical issues that will be enhanced with pre and post analysis from Tar Padiking, Director, ABC Amba News, Lady Casey, Press Secretary, Onye Okpala, Undaunted Anchor, Star Smart, Undaunted Anchor. The rendezvous is Tuesday, May 2023 at 8 p.m. Amba time. Live and exclusive on ABC Amba TV. You cannot afford to miss.
The valiant ARFs have put down 3, injuring many at a checkpoint at Machuke on a borderline between Mbanga in the littoral of La Republic to Cameroon and Fako County in the Atlantic zone of Ambazonia. This attack was an ambush laid by the Ambazonia Restoration Forces in wait as the Colonial La Republic to Cameroon military have the routine of detaching a mixed force consisting of their colonial gendarmes, police and the military to harass the population and extort money. Well, on this fateful day, things turned grim as the valiant Ambazonia Restoration Forces ambush could not spare them. Well, this is where we begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight.
Well, in an audio made in the enemy language, the commentator, who is equally a colonial La Republic du Cameroun survivor of the attack, laments that one of their colleagues killed had just been in service for barely 1 month. Meanwhile, the Alliance of CDC Workers has declared 10 days of industrial action starting from Monday, 1st of May, today, 2023, the International Labour Day, in CDC offices, stores, factories, oil mills, and plantations.
Well, CNA learned that the workers plan to wear black, but will go on with their normal activities. This is to raise awareness of their suffering to the national and international communities. Well, we have died enough. We need our unpaid salaries, a member told Undaunted. Now, a look into Cameroon's economy. According to Encyclopedia of Nations, Cameroon has been called a miniature version of the African continent because of its varied topography and wide range of peoples and lifestyles. In rural regions, most of Cameroon's population cultivate food crops for their own consumption and cash crops to earn money. Farmers in different regions cultivate different cash crops: cotton in the north, coffee and cocoa in the south central region, and bananas in the southwest.
And in the northern provinces, animal herders live semi-nomadic lives, migrating south in search of pastures during the dry season. Rural areas also host a number of small businessmen who purchase goods in rural markets and transport them for sale to urban vendors. Most Cameroonians live the life of small-scale farmers. Their work routine is dependent on seasonal changes of weather, with different regions of the country subject to different seasonal cycles according to rainfall patterns. In all cases, farmers' families have annual periods for sowing their crops, laboring their fields, and reaping their harvest. All capable family members, including students and small children, usually contribute to this work, particularly during busy periods. Local schools sometimes plan their schedules to allow pupils the freedom to participate in the seasonal farm work.
While professional and civil servant classes live in urban areas alongside unskilled workers, and the cities reflect this mix of classes, whose lifestyles and living conditions vary according to their occupations and income. The majority of Cameroon city dwellers are involved in various informal sector activities that provide limited income. Women play a crucial role in the informal sector economy, supplementing their husband's income through various working activities, particularly the preparation and selling of food and beverages.
Now, like many other large African cities, Douala and Yaoundé are plagued with increasing crime problems. Cameroon has a number of unions that represent both private and public sector workers. including civil servants, dock workers, and truckers. These unions have rights to organize, to bargain with employers, and to hold strikes. Some unions have engaged in political demonstration, but they serve primarily to negotiate with employers for wage increases and prompt payments and generally represent the interest of employees.
Well, speaking of employees, employees in La Republic du Cameroon in the agricultural and related sectors, which according to official data represents the largest workforce in the country. Well, they had their minimum wage increase from 36,000 francs CFA to 45,000 francs CFA in the non-agricultural sectors. The minimum wage has been raised to 60,000 francs CFA. Unfortunately, though, that hasn't done much good as the raise in wages wasn't proportional to their inflation rates. Since November 2021, Cameroons has been experiencing high inflation, driven mainly by shortage and increase of the price of staple goods like bread, wheat, and related products, vegetable oil, and meat, which can be explained by the disruption of the global value chain and especially the ongoing Amazonian War of Independence.
With all this global economic turmoil, economists still believe that Cameroon's real GDP growth from projections would reach 4.6% by 2024 next year. But that is only for world economists' views because with the corruption from La République du Cameroon, daily thievery, embezzlement, fraudulence, the chop money go brokers heist, the economy is only set for decline. And it's said that Amazonian resources might just go with it too if the international community does not come to Amazonians' aid timely too.
All right, moving on. Inhabitants of Mulanga neighborhood in Bamenda, Mazam County of Midland Zone of Ambazonia have decried the activities of the Colonial Republic to Cameroon military thugs against them. These thugs have caused bike riders and commercial cab drivers to avoid using the Mulang stretch of road as a result of the neighboring La Republic to Cameroon military extortion scheme there. The people of this area are forced by the circumstances to carry their luggage on their heads from the market and other places. The earlier these thugs are dislodged from that place, the better for the people of that area. While neighboring La Republic to Cameroon is not willing to stop anytime soon from inflicting pain on the people of Southern Cameroons. The question is, for how long will this continue?
The La Republic du Cameroon military post set up in the Mulang neighborhood has turned against the local population. Reports say inhabitants have been going through what they describe as hell since La Republic du Cameroon's military post was set up there. According to the information gathered, the colonial La Republic du Cameroon security forces have taken it upon themselves to be harassing and extorting money from locals. For more than 1 month since the La Republic du Cameroon's military camp was opened at Mulang, it has been held to the population. This is from a local.
Well, the thugs are set to turn against the local population each time a gun is fired by Amazonian fighters who base in Ntanka, a few meters away from Mulang. Now, when Amba boys fired shots at Ntanka, the military in Mulang will block the road at Dominion and start torturing and extorting money from civilians. This is what he said. He said a certain Saturday we were robbed in Mord from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and paid ransom before being released. Well, pedestrians are reportedly forced to pay at least CFA each, while motorcycle and car owners, irrespective of status, paid a sum of 1,000 francs each. Well, they now collect money from everybody who passes there. Those trekking are asked to pay 500 francs from Ntanka before crossing to Mulang. Other persons complained.
Well, one person recalled that 2 weeks ago on a Sunday while going to church, that she saw them there and two Christians dropped 500 francs CFA each before passing. Now you want to ask, do they pay their offerings to these posts or have they become their gods? When she said she reached and she thought they were asking for ID cards, but then she presented her ID card to them, but then the soldier took and pocketed it and told her that everybody from Ntankan has to pay 500 francs CFA before passing. Life has become unbearable for these inhabitants, this neighborhood inhabitants, as commercial motorcycles and taxis no longer ply the street for fear of extortion and harassment. And it's really, really sad.
Well, reports reaching ABC Amba TV News has confirmed that 5 more southern Cameroonians who were rescued at sea in Antigua and Barbuda have escaped from the detention facility. A detention facility where 14 were held. Initially, 9 of the nationals had escaped, while the host country's Ministry of National Security, in a statement, provided a timeline of the incident.
Well, from the record, it says on April 2023, 9 of the 14 Southern Cameroon nationals escaped from the detention facility on St. Kitts. By the morning of April 27th, 4 of them have been found. 5 are currently are alleged, and law enforcement officials are continuing the ceaseless search to locate them. The host country's Ministry of National Security adds that anyone with information as to the whereabouts of any of the escaped detainees has been asked to contact the nearest police station or law enforcement agency.
Well, the Ministry of National Security had explained why the Southern Cameroonians are still in St. Kitts. While it says on March 28, 2023, the St. Kitts and Nevis Coast Guard, as the SKNCG, responded to a call for help at the sea. Their situation turned out to be a rescue mission for a number of Southern Cameroonian nationals who were found alive after their boat capsized. Now, when they had left Antigua and Barbuda, the Southern Cameroonians were transported to St. Kitts, provided with medical and psychological care, and detained at a government facility pending repatriation to Antigua and Barbuda.
A total of 17 Southern Cameroonians were brought to St. Kitts by the SKNCG on March 28. Regrettably, 3 of them were deceased, having perished before being rescued. The ministry in a statement says that after initially agreeing to accept the repatriation of the other 14 Southern Cameroonians, and Barbuda has now rescinded this offer, thereby cancelling the pending arrangement. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis say it continues to pursue workable and diplomatic solutions as it is duty-bound to do so.
Now, that is the fate of the Southern Cameroonians running away from the scorched earth policy inflicted by the barbaric genocide of French Cameroon on the innocent, peace-loving Southern Cameroonians. Now, this is 6 years now that the genocidal war broke out, and it has claimed over 45,000 lives. Many are dying on their seas trying to get greener pastures. Well, we hope that they stay alive till we get to Boya. All right, we have this communique here, and it is their certificate of appreciation from the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. This is Manu County. Well, we'll just take that quickly. It says, hereby recognize and appreciate Ma Kathy for her continuous humanitarian support to Manu County and to the Ambazonian people. Makati tireless sacrifices through her financial donations, advice, proactiveness, and meeting attendance alongside war draft participation has helped save life both at the home front and in the refugee camps, prison centers, hospitals, and overall pain and suffering of the people at the tail end. Well, it ended up by saying Makati, we the people of Amazonia and Manu County in particular, says thanks. All right, this is signed by the Manu County coordinator, Willie Ayong.
In Africa, still on the war in Sudan. In Africa, still on the war in Sudan, warplanes on bombing raids through heavy anti-aircraft fire over Khartoum on Saturday as the sound of airstrikes, anti-aircraft weaponry and artillery could be heard around the city while fierce fighting between Sudan's army and paramilitaries entered a third week, violating a renewed truce. Fighting between the army and a rival paramilitary force continued despite the announcement of a 72-hour ceasefire extension when strikes by air, tanks, and artillery rocked Khartoum and the adjacent cities of Bari and Umdurman. Hundreds have been killed and tens of thousands have fled for their lives in a power struggle between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces, to violence since April 15th, derailing an internationally backed transition towards democratic elections.
The fighting has also reawakened a two-decade-old conflict in the western Darfur region where scores have died this week. The army has been deploying jets or drones on RSF forces in neighborhoods across the capital. Many residents are pinned down by urban warfare with scant fuel, water, and power. At least 512 people have been killed and close to 4,200 wounded. This is according to the United Nations, which believes the real toll could even be much higher. More than 75,000 people were internally displaced within Sudan just in the first week of the fighting. Well, according to the United Nations as well, only 16% of hospitals were operating as normal in the capital.
And now the latest ceasefire brokered by foreign powers is supposed to last until midnight on Sunday. The RSF accused the army of violating it with airstrikes on its bases in Omdurman, Khartoum's sister city at the confluence of the Blue and White Nile rivers and Mount Aulia. The army blamed the RSF for violations.
Well, the violence has sent tens of thousands of refugees across Sudan borders and threatens to stir instability across a volatile swath of Africa between the Sahel and the Red Sea. Foreign governments have evacuated diplomats and citizens to safety over the past week, including with airlift. Britain said its evacuations would end on Saturday as demand for spots on planes had declined.
Turkey on Thursday deployed 5 military transport planes, including two A400M aircraft to evacuate its remaining citizens from conflict-torn Sudan. Early on Friday last week, the Turkish National Defense Ministry announced that a Turkish C-130 evacuation plane headed to Wadi Sidna Air Base for evacuation came under small arms fire. National Defense Minister Hulusi Akar told reporters that as part of plans to evacuate their citizens, one of our C-130 aircrafts landed at Wadi Sidna Airport, north of the capital Khartoum. There was gunfire from light arm during the landing of our second plane. Despite this, our plane landed safely. Well, there were no casualties, he stressed.
Akar said a Turkish team inspected the damage to the plane Arden. That according to our preliminary assessments, we do not believe there is major damage. We believe we can repair it by teams we send from here. The exact situation will be clarified with an upcoming report. While the Turkish National Defense Ministry said on Friday that 101 Turkish citizens were safely transported to the country with a 400M aircraft. The U.S. told that several hundred departed Sudan by land, sea, and air. A convoy of buses carrying 300 Americans left Khartoum late on Friday on a 850-kilometer, that is 525-mile trip to the Red Sea in the first U.S. organized evacuation effort for citizens. Well, this is from the New York Times.
In Darfur, at least 96 people had died since Monday in intercommunal violence rekindled by the Army-RSF conflict. UN Human Rights Office spokesperson Ravina Shamdasani said, "There is right now no end in sight to this war in Sudan. The fight for power has clearly been more important than the lives of Sudan's citizens." Well, it's very disheartening And what's even more disheartening is the retreat escapade by the international community, as though their hands in recent times have been tied to these wars.
And on the foreign scene, during the past few months, the battle for Bakhmut has become the fulcrum of a conflict that had seen a little shift in front lines since January 2022, leaving both sides looking for a breakthrough. Well, according to Gravitas, last night, two Ukrainian cities faced overnight Russian missile attack, 3 days after Vladimir Putin's forces on Ukraine killed at least 23 people. Ukraine activated air defense system and sounded air raid alerts across the country after Russia fired another barrage of missiles towards their besieged nation in the early hours of today. Well, air defenses are at work. Well, this is from Kyiv's regional administration. This is what he wrote on the telegram amid explosions heard in the region. Keep calm, stay in shelters until the air alarm goes off. This he advised. He goes on to say a lot of things, but then we are thinking to ourselves, we thought the war would have ended by now. But then let's see what the missile airstrike looks like.
Уже минут 10, наверное, чтобы там склады рифов и боеприпасы именно.
Сумку, Коля! Пойдем сумку отдать!
And yes, blasts have been reported in Dnipropetrovsk and Sumy so far. Locals were seen taking shelters in metro stations after the whole country came under air raids alert. The air raid alert was sounded around 3:40 a.m. local time. And there is also a video of these explosions that we will get to you soonest. Good thing the video was handy. Well, Serhiy Shaiket, the head of Ukrainian city Mykolaiv police, had warned that Russia may try to strike Ukraine 100 missiles and overnight. Ukraine's presidential office head Andriy Yermak had urged citizens not to ignore air raid sirens.
Well, the barrage of missiles comes just 2 days after a similar attack by Vladimir Putin's forces on Ukraine, as about 23 people were killed, including 4 children, after a Russian missile struck a 9-story residential building. Well, air raid alerts have been issued throughout all of Ukraine by emergency services after a threat of missile strikes in the early hours of today.
Now, Kyiv regional administration wrote on the telegram, the threat of a missile strike, stay in shelters. Andriy Yermak, head of President Volodymyr Zelensky's office, said on the telegram, take care of your safety, do not publicize the work of air defense.
And in sports, the nation have banned from the competition following using overage players. Now, this is due to related wrongdoings. South Sudan has been excluded from the current Afghan Under-17 Championship in Algeria. 5 of their players' MRI examinations were found to be negative.
Well, in basketball, Stephen Curry ensured reigning NBA champions Golden State Warriors avoided an early playoff exit with a masterclass in the series decided at the Sacramento Kings. Curry hit a playoff career-high 50 points as his side won 120-100. The Warriors will face LeBron James' LA Lakers in the Western Conference semifinals. We'll have the Bellesin tell us more.
Latest world sports. Football. South Sudan disqualified from AFCON Under-17 due to age fraud. The nation has been banned from the competition following using overage players. Due to age-related wrongdoing, South Sudan has been excluded from the current AFCON Under-17 in Algeria. 5 of their players' MRI examinations were found to be negative, which is confirmed. Players who were born on or after January 1st, 2006 are eligible to compete in this year's competition. To confirm that all participants match the age eligibility requirements established by the competition's rules, an MRI exam was performed on April 26, 2023. The organization said that they appealed the judgment to the CAF Medical Committee, but that their appeal was denied since their first and second results changed. In October of last year, South Sudan overcame Tanzania 4-3 in a penalty shootout to secure their first ever spot in the AFCON Under-17. The African country were placed in Group C with Mali, Burkina Faso, and Cameroon. The top 4 teams in the competition, which began on Saturday, will represent Africa in the FIFA Under-17 World Cup in 2023. The legislation has changed, and instead of stating that the team will be disqualified if one player fails the MRI exam, it now says that the team will be dismissed if a minimum of 4 players do. The statement that follows has been released by the South Sudan Football Federation. The South Sudan Football Association regrets to announce that our team has been disqualified from the AFCON Under-17 Algeria 2023 due to the non-eligibility of 5 players after the MRI test, according to a statement from SSFA. Unfortunately, on 28 April 2023, we received a notification from CAF that 5 of our players did not pass the MRI test and were deemed ineligible to participate in the competition. They further said, although 2 of the players were part of the team which participated in the zonal qualifiers and passed the MRI eligibility in Ethiopia last September 2022, we fully understand and respect the decision made by the competition's organizers, and we apologize to our fans, sponsors, and partners for any disappointment this may cause. South Sudan Football Association to emphasize that we have always been committed to fair play and sportsmanship. We have taken all the necessary steps to ensure that all our players meet the eligibility criteria set by the competition's regulations. Haaland scores landmark 50th goal of season as Man City go top of the Premier League. Manchester City have moved to the top of the Premier League as Erling Haaland shattered a 92-year goal landmark, while Julian Alvarez scored a stunner to clinch a 2-1 win at Fulham. Norway striker Haaland converted a third-minute penalty at Craven Cottage Sunday to become the first player in top-flight English football to score 50 goals in all competitions since 1931. Before Winston Churchill was Prime Minister, wow, sounds a long time ago. Congratulations to Erling. The best goal to help us achieve what we want is still there, City boss Pep Guardiola said. Haaland also moved level with Alan Shearer and Andy Cole's single-season Premier League record total. Shearer scored 34 for Blackburn Rovers in 1995, and Cole hit the same tally for Newcastle United in 1994. However, the Norwegian strike rate puts even his much-vaunted predecessors, who played in the era of 42-game seasons, in the shade. Shearer started all 42 matches of the 1994-1995 season as he fired Blackburn to the title, while Cole made 40 appearances the previous year for Newcastle. Haaland has needed just 30 games to reach 34 goals, having raced past Liverpool's Mohamed Salah to set a new record for a 38-game season. If you were building a center forward from the ground up, Erling is what you would be left with, Shearer told The Athletic. He's a goal machine, someone who is quick and direct, who is physically strong and good in the air, who can score with both feet and whose positioning is fantastic. Basketball. NBA playoffs. Stephen Curry scores 50 points as Golden State Warriors eliminate Sacramento Kings. Stephen Curry ensured reigning NBA champions Golden State Warriors avoided an early playoff exit with a masterclass in the series decider at the Sacramento Kings. Curry hit a playoff career-high 50 points as his side 120-100. The Warriors will face LeBron James' LA Lakers in the Western Conference semifinals. Earlier, the Miami Heat beat the New York Knicks 108-101 to go 1-0 up in the Eastern Conference semis. The Warriors were trounced 118-99 in Game 6 on Friday, but Curry, chasing a fifth NBA title in 9 years, starred in a decider, finishing with the most points ever in a Game 7 as his side progressed. The Kings, who were making their first post-season appearance in 17 years and had the benefit of a home crowd, led 58-56 at halftime, with Domantas Sabonis scoring 16 points. But the third quarter belonged to the Warriors, and once Curry scored 5 points in a row to put them 69-62 up with 7 minutes and 50 seconds remaining, they ceased and relinquished it. Curry was devastating with 7 3-pointers in his tally, but Kevin Looney, 21 rebounds and 11 points, Andrew Wiggins, 17 points, and Klay Thompson, 16 points, also played their parts in the win. The opening game between the Lakers and the Warriors will take place at 300 BST on Wednesday in San Francisco. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News. You are invited to State of the Liberation Movement with the President, Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikomesako, and Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. They will spotlight their briefings on the IG's unwavering position on topical issues that will be enhanced with pre- and post analysis from Tar Padiking, Director, ABC Amba News, Lady Casey, Press Secretary, Onye Okpala, Undaunted Anchor, Star Smart, Undaunted Anchor. The rendezvous is Tuesday, May 2023 at 8 p.m. Amba time. Live and exclusive on ABC Amba TV. You cannot afford to miss.
All right, thank you so much, Gab Ellison, for that sports report. And with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at the major highlights.
In tonight's Undaunted, we brought to you bikes and taxis who abandoned Mulang to the colonial La Republic to Cameroon, military their earnings, and also the fate of southern Cameroons fleeing the war hanging on the balance, and also no end in sight to the war in Sudan.
All right, on the foreign scene, we told you that Putin fires barrage of missiles on Kyiv, air defense activated across the country. And in sports, South Sudan disqualified from AFCON Under-17 due to age fraud. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news on George Stories. On behalf of Michael Anchor, Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you now with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.
You are invited to State of the Liberation Movement with the President, Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikomesako, and Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. They will spotlight their briefings on the IG's unwavering position on topical issues that will be enhanced with pre and post analysis from Tar Padiking, Director, ABC Amba News, Lady Casey, Press Secretary, Onye Okpala, Undaunted Anchor, Star Smart, Undaunted Anchor. The rendezvous is Tuesday, May 2023 at 8 p.m. Amba time. Live and exclusive on ABC Amba TV. You cannot afford to miss.